All right, everybody, this is James Pelton, and I'm here with the team from Nodeify. Really excited to have them back. I had them here once before, and so it's always fun to have a team back. So, again, might notice I'm not in my office, so I'm on a 5-week road trip of the Western United States, and we are currently in Sacramento, California. And basically, I just try to turn a room in whatever Airbnb or hotel we're at into a makeshift office. So, it's been working pretty well so far. So we're having a lot of fun. But I do miss my office and just a nice chair and my own room, things like that. So, but if you're in the audience here today, appreciate you guys being here. We would like you if you could leave a like. And some people say, "Oh, I don't want to leave a like until after." I've watched the video, but it helps if you leave a like now. That tells the YouTube algorithm, hey, show this to more people. So go ahead and hit like, and then go ahead and comment where you are watching from. So again, I'm in Sacramento, California, and I've pretty much been everywhere in the Western United States in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So, but let me know where you're watching from. And then let's go ahead and welcome the team from Nodeify. Thank you guys for joining us. Could you go ahead and start out by introducing yourself and giving a little bit of your background?
Sure thing. Yeah. So thanks, James. Appreciate the intro. My name is Quix. I'm the lead engineer and co-founder for Nodeify. I'm joined here today by my colleagues as well. Bedhead's here as well. She's one of our front-end developers. And we might be greeted by the wonderful Dex, who might just join in a little bit late. He said he was having some issues, but I think he's joining in now. But yeah, so I'm the lead engineer, and my background is in computer science. I was at Microsoft and Amazon, and now I lead the development of our product here at Nodeify, which we are happy to talk about today and dive into again. So thanks for having us back. Of course, this is our second round, our encore, if you will. So appreciate it.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Bedhead, but you can also call me Sam. I'm the front-end developer for Nodeify. Yeah, I've been doing front-end development for a few years. I worked for a few companies just leading front-end development for in-house applications and also a few agencies.
And Dex is right on time. Welcome, Dex.
Dex is right on time.
sorry, guys. Just
No,
I'm still cooking. I'm still cooking.
Fashionably late. You come in right at the right moment.
Perfect.
Tell us about yourself.
Oh yeah, I guess
I'm
you
doing a
missed the
reintroduction.
question. We're doing introduction. Yes, that's what we're doing.
All right. I'm Dex. I'm doing the finance side on Nodeify. I have a history in investment banking, doing financial analysis and forecasting and writing kind of forecasting models. So that's what I do.
All right, very cool. And we got a lot of people watching. We got Miami, Florida, Nigeria, Springfield, Ohio, Council Bluffs. I like this one. Council Bluffs, Iowa, the center of the crypto world. Yes, that's definitely definitely what we consider. So we got England, Middle East, so all over the place. So that's awesome. It's one of the things I love about YouTube and crypto in general. Okay, so for you three from the Nodeify team, I want you to imagine that the people watching have never heard of Nodeify, because obviously I have, and we've talked quite a bit. And we have another AMA with you guys before that people should definitely check out. But could you just do a quick run through of what Nodeify is, kind of what the vision is and what you're trying to build?
Right. Yeah. Would love to. So, if you imagine the blockchain, right? So you just visualize the blockchain in your mind, right? Blocks connecting to blocks, right? Very, very simple. What actually runs the blockchain, right? You actually need servers, right? Infrastructure, right? It's basically, you can think of a server as a computer that someone else runs and manages for you, that runs some software, right? Just like how computers run software, servers also run software. And these servers run the actual software to run that blockchain, whether it be Avalanche or Phantom or Ethereum or whatever it is. Choose your favorite blockchain. They all need compute capacity, right? Servers. Compute capacity is a fancy way of saying servers, and many servers. So what we do is we actually take that undifferentiated heavy lifting, we call it, that element of actually having to create all of those servers and the resources and the infrastructure around that, and we offer an abstraction layer or a set of services that alleviate that, right? So we allow investors to come in and to create that capacity So they actually are able to facilitate like spinning up or creating that capacity through our platform. And then we take that capacity and we offer it to the people who actually need it, right? Developers actually need to consume that capacity. So why do developers need to consume that capacity? If you build a decentralized application on the blockchain, you need this infrastructure or these resources to be able to deploy, to be able to test, and to be able to monitor the health of your decentralized application. So we basically act as a bridge, if you will, between the investor who can create those blockchain resources and the developers who want to consume those blockchain resources. It's like a bit of a bridge, if you will. Imagine a bridge where we act in the middle between investors and developers, and vice versa. That's a very easy way to think of it, I think.
Yeah, very, very cool. Yeah, and so how would you say? So, because I think when people hear Node, we talked about this last time, but they immediately think, kind of the nodes as a service project, like Strong and Thor and all those. So, could you kind of maybe just distinguish that this is not one of those, and can you kind of tell about?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like we want to mention first of all, like we don't want to shy away from the word node. Like that word has been destroyed. And it's actually like it's a technical construct, that word. It simply is the recognition or the encapsulation, if you will, of a server that is running blockchain specific software. You would just call that a node. There are different kinds of nodes, of course. There are full nodes and validator nodes and miners and all sorts of different things. But the word itself is a technical word, but it got sort of butchered, if you will, by DeFi as a service platforms wanting to capitalize on that as a marketing concept. So we're not going to like shy away from the node because we like that word specifically. It's obviously in our name because we believe it's a technical product. We know it's a technical product and we offer it in that mechanism. So as far as what we are doing, we are the only platform that we know of that we've seen that are actually creating resources in the cloud and globally distributing those across the world. So we operate out of Europe, Asia, and the US. And we distribute those fleets of servers and we call those clusters, right? When you have multiple servers packed together, we call that a cluster. And so we have those clusters and they're able to service our customers in those geographical regions, right? And so that's a very, very different concept to the idea of creating a box that pays you money. In the normal DeFi as a service platforms, you simply click on a button that it's called a node and resembles the word of a node, but there's nothing behind that. There's no resources being created. There's nothing that's servicing a customer. It's simply just there for that encapsulation or that box to call a node. So it's a very different concept. And yeah, we operate over 5 different blockchains. We operate over Phantom Opera, which is where our smart contracts are deployed. We're on Avalanche, Near Protocol, Polygon, and also on Starknet, which is a layer 2 ZK rollup over Ethereum. And we're like mega bullish on rollups and sort of the future of that. So we're making sure that we are able to service customers where we see the largest amount of developer traction and developer growth, which is what we believe in the layer 2 Ethereum ecosystem, which will be coming in. We already have Starknet and we're already looking at more layer 2s to ensure the scaling and future sort of survival of that development ecosystem. So yeah.
Okay, very cool. Then last thing before we kind of talk about, I want to talk about what you've done since our last AMA, what's on the roadmap. But before that, could you, for investors, can you kind of talk through how investors get involved and what the rewards look like from that?
Sure thing. Yeah. So, as an investor, it's, we offer a fully managed service, right? So there's no creating a server at home or having to, bring out your Raspberry Pi from the cupboard and start playing around with it. The idea of being able to create these resources and this infrastructure that powers our platform is a fully serviced process, right? From our dApp, which is on Phantom Opera, you essentially would use our NDFI token is the token we use. It's our utility token to create these infrastructure resources, and that's on through our dApp. And you simply select the chain, and the different chains that we offer, as I mentioned before, have different bonuses. So the way that our whole system works is that it's very supply and demand based. The more supply that investors put towards a specific chain, the lower the reward is, depending on the supply and demand ratios, right? So if we have a lot of consumption on a specific chain, for example, Avalanche, right? So say we have our partners and customers and businesses consuming capacity on Avalanche, and they're demanding that capacity, but there's not enough capacity being created by investors, then the incentivization and the reward for creating those Avalanche specific resources increases, and vice versa, right? So it's basically like a tug of war system. And so as an investor, all you really need to do is create a node from our dApp, and that's with the NDFI token, and that generates a reward of 0.125 NDFI per day initially, and that tapers down over 185 days to around 0.05 NDFI at around the 185 day mark. So we have an optimal tapering model in place to ensure sustainability, because the way we've modeled our business is based on these ebbs and flows and outbounds and inbounds from our partners and our business side of things, as opposed to our reward side of things, right? So that's sort of a nice structure with the ebbs and flows of how the business operates at a high level.
Okay, and yeah, that was going to be my next question is, we're used to we're finding through the bear market that we really need revenue streams, like there can't be any we have the Ponzi-nomics of, and those worked great when there was new investors coming in, but right now we don't have a lot of new investors coming in, so we're really relying on revenue streams. Can you talk a little bit about revenue and where you guys get that from?
Sure, yeah, definitely. So, I mean, originally when we spoke last time, which was, we've been live for 6 weeks now. So when we spoke originally and when we were on here the first time, it was actually, I believe, just before we launched. I think it was the night before we launched, actually.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So it's been 6 weeks, which, as we know, which is actually no time, but it's an eternity in the crypto world. But in this build market, as we're calling it, we've just been focused on building, and part of through that process of building and showing what we've built and engaging with the communities, we've been able to work on our partnership, right? A partnership ecosystem, right? So what we wanted to do to set out for originally was to be able to insert ourselves and to be able to create lasting partnerships. And we found that we met with lots of different teams, and we spoke about lots of different technical challenges that these teams had, and we came across many different places where we can insert our skill set. Like we have a very strong team. This is only 3 of us here. We have 7 of the team who have very strong technical backgrounds in finance and so on. And we found that a lot of these teams didn't have these skills. There's actually a lot of people and a lot of teams who really are just sort of winging it and don't really know what's going on. So we were able to sort of insert ourselves, whether it be technically or financially, with that sort of advice into different teams. And a few of the teams we've struck up partnerships with. So you might be familiar with Alpha Shares. They're launching an NFT marketplace. I think I saw you retweet actually today about them. But
yes, yep.
So Alpha Shares are our first official partner. And Alpha Shares are a fantastic product, fantastic team. When we first met them, we just clicked because we shared a similar vision. We sort of had that same level of technical passion for what it was we were building. We're both building technical products at the end of the day, and both of our teams just clicked really well. So the thing is, they're building out a very complex architecture and a very complex system. So really what they needed was someone to come in and really help them build that out, right? They really needed our expertise to really scale that and build that out. So we've struck up a partnership with them where we are together building that NFT marketplace. It's under the Alpha Shares brand, of course, but it's a Nodeify and Alpha Shares product where we collaboratively co-develop the marketplace and the different processes that are able to facilitate that data together and to create such a thing, right? As a marketplace, there's lots of moving parts, but in specific detail, they have quite a lot of moving parts. It needs to take data from the chain. It needs to make it available to users in the front end of the marketplace. So, there's a system that we've designed together there that we're calling the Nodeify Event Distributor, or NED for short. And so we're co-developing this and we're packaging it up and productizing it. So we'll be able to sell this service to many other different platforms and products that need to utilize this specific way that we're doing things, right? So we're building it out together and productizing it. And this co-collaboration aspect, to get back to your question around revenue streams, allows us to have an investment in the Alpha Shares brand, right, through a percentage of ownership of their revenue through their marketplace, and we co-collaborate and co-build this software together, which then we go forward and we can sell to our other future partners. So that's just one specific revenue stream that we have through them, right? So we're building that out together, and we'll be a big sort of proponent in what they're doing in the future, not just for their initial marketplace, but as we move forward, we're really I guess you could say, bullish on each other and the way that we're able to build products together. So that's a very long-term relationship we've established there.
You might want to add that it's also going to be the first kind of powered by Nodeify, an official powered by Nodeify, and like over the coming like months, we kind of want to have that stamp obviously pop up on many more kind of projects where we get involved, and like that's going to be I feel the power from our side, like we're going to be powering a lot of these projects.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and if you think about it, it's like, you know, what our business actually is a simplification of infrastructure, right? Like you need infrastructure like servers, as I said before, that basically is able to facilitate moving data from point A to point B, right? In their case, it's taking data that's on chain, like transfers, minting, burning, all the different things that an NFT might do, and having those actions in real time show up on the front end, so that on the marketplace, so that people can actually understand what's happening. Did I just get this NFT? Did someone else get it? Did I win my bid? Did I lose my bid? All of the little bits of information that a marketplace needs is what the event distributor is able to facilitate for a product like Alpha Shares. But it's just scratching the surface of what we're building and how that sort of plays into the larger sort of scheme of things. And so we are also engaged with another partner at the moment who's building a game, and it's a very sort of similar concept. They need to have data that's on chain, and they need to be able to sort of feed that through to their mobile device because it's a mobile-based game, right? So and vice versa as well. Data needs to come from the phone to be written in a transaction to the chain, and they need to be able to facilitate this in such a way where, you know, a lot of the things that you see, if it's OpenSea, if it's a mobile game that's play to earn, if it's your favorite DApp, a lot of the data that you're looking at is in a Web2 database. Like that is the way it is, because you cannot have data read from the chain or queried from the chain in a speedy manner, right? It's simply not built for that level of throughput, right? So the event distributor, and really part of what, you know, Nodeify is building out right now for a lot of these partners, and, you know, how we intend to package this up and productize it moving forward, is creating a really fast, like, expressway, if you will, between chain data and whatever data storage that consumer wants to use. That could be a SQL database, a non-relational database, a graph database. It could be, you know, whatever, right? But this is all very important stuff when building out sort of complex systems as such. So.
Okay. Okay. Very cool. Yeah. No, that was a good answer. And I do appreciate, Alpha Shares is one of my biggest holdings. And so I saw they're up 245% today. So
I was just chatting with the guys before this, and you know, and they're super happy and super stoked, and they deserve it. They're a great team. And so looking forward to working with them in the long term.
Yes. No, they're a great team. So, and then, by the way, if you're just joining us, we got a lot of new people on here, so please do, even if you're watching as a replay, please hit the like button. And again, comment where you're watching from. If you have questions for the Nodeify team, then please ask those, and we'll bring those up here once we get through my questions, which though there still should be time left over afterwards. First off, Windex, you've got some fans. I like the hottie bottom left. I think he's talking about you. So.
Damn. Crypto throwaway AVAX.
Perfect.
They didn't even want to use their real account.
Yeah, that's right. Anonymous fans. Those are the best. So can you talk about, you've kind of touched on some of this already, so you don't have to repeat yourself. But can you tell me maybe how things have gone in the last 6 weeks, and kind of what pivots you've had to make as the bear market has come and things like that?
Yeah, good point. I mean, really for us, you know, we had a good look at what the direction was we originally sort of planned out, and sort of how that was fitting into where we were. And we realized straight away that if we want to have impact at any sort of rate where, you know, we can say to investors, hey, here's what we're doing, here's the result, here's the revenue, here's how we're actually building our business, we need to really focus on partners, right? We can't just open up our services to the developers on the street, like, you know, developers that need to consume our services off the street. But, you know, we can have far more impact if we create these long-lasting sort of business relationships. So that's where things like Alpha Shares in this game, and, you know, we've also been doing, if you will, like very in-depth, I also want to say, like, sort of consulting for many different DeFi products. I can't mention their names here, but we've been talking with them behind closed doors about how are they going to do cross-chain arbitrage? How are their tokenomics actually going to work at scale? How like they come to us like, hey, does this work? Like, even if it's like, hey, can you break down Constellation Network for me? I hear a lot about this. Like, is this actual real or what? Like, so we are getting a lot of recognition around being like technically excellent and knowledgeable in this area around certain elements. And a lot of teams are starting to notice that, and they're starting to come to us with like different queries and so on about how we can do that. So we noticed that. And we sort of have started sort of going down that avenue where we can build our developer portal. We call it the Nodeify portal now, which is originally our software as a service product. And so we're catering that to as a business to business sort of login for our partners to be able to consume our services and interact with us through there. So that's like sort of the main piece that we've sort of pivoted, which is simply just from being 100% focused on developers, right, and capturing that market share. That's something we're still going to be focused on, but we really want to at first go to these businesses and projects where we can have a big impact and really help them out and create those revenue streams, create those partnerships, and sort of focus on that. That's been the main thing we've really sort of had to navigate around, which has been really well received by our community and by them, and their communities as well. And I think also another thing I'll say to that is like, we've really like, I've spent a lot of time in other projects, and before we all started Nodeify, and as right, like, I mean, you're in many Discords as well. We've looked around at like how teams interact with their community, and we're like super proud and happy to be like what we think the only team who really creates educational content and goes out of their way for their community. We run bi-weekly development sessions where we basically just teach Solidity to our community. We say, if you want to learn development, I as the lead developer will sit down with you and teach you Solidity. We have a session on Friday about minor extractable value, which is a very interesting topic, MEV, about blockchain, scalping, if you will, and reordering and dropping of blocks or transactions in a block, right? So we're basically diving into that and how that works. And I've done a lot of different talks about layer 2 on different community Discords and so on as well. So we spent a lot of time educating, right? And when we first started out, this was a big point of our business and something that we wanted to focus on. And we're really, really happy about that still. And we still get a lot of feedback, and we don't see anyone else going out of their way to sort of really try and educate their community, whether it be technically or through tokenomics, or like I said before, sort of people coming to us and asking like, how does this work, right? Like, and I lately I have been getting a little bit more outspoken on Twitter, trying to like guide people in the direction to be critical thinkers, because we are seeing a lot of people that are not being critical thinkers, and we as a business are trying to stamp that in and say like, no, do not do that. This is not like, think about what you're doing, right? So, and really go through the steps about how that works from a technical perspective, first and foremost. So yeah, I mean, a bit of a long-winded answer, and feel free to you guys to jump in as well. I mean, I'm sure we've pivoted in other slight areas, but that's for me been sort of the main areas where I've been inserting myself.
Yeah, no, and I think the education, probably one of the most frequent questions I get is, "Hey, do you know any Web3 developers?" Yeah. And I know a lot of Web2 developers, but not a lot of Web3. And I remember when we talked the first time, that was one of the things I was most excited about was, we're just finally getting to a point where we have enough Web2 programmers in the world. Yeah. Like, it's starting to catch up to demand, and then now we have this new Web3, and we have to a whole new group that we have to kind of migrate over. How have you seen that education taking hold, and have you been able to start to transition some 2.0 people over to 3.0, and how's that kind of gone for you on the educational side of things?
Yeah. I mean, it's been really rewarding, personally. I mean, I really enjoy it. Like, I've always loved teaching people, and we have a great community in our Discord where people are really eager to learn. And also there's been a few other Discords, as I mentioned, that I've joined recently, where people are starting to ask like, I have this thing in the Web2 world, like, how does this translate, and what are the differences and so on. So that's been really it's been really good in general, and we're going to continue that path, and of sort of taking traditional Web2 developers on that journey through to Web3, and sort of of course, like, we do our things bi-weekly in our Discord, and the different tech sessions that we host. So we're going to use that as a ramp for them. But in general, it's been really good, and I think that there's a lot there that the community can benefit from. I mean, as you said, right, there's so, if you start to think about India and China and all these countries where there's just massive amounts of Web2 developers, who don't know anything about Web3, the potential on that upside, right? The potential of that market segment is massive, right? So for us, building a developer-specific product and having these skill sets where, find ourselves in a very fortunate position to be able to like guide and teach, but also to be able to build products that enable that for the future generations to be able to consume. So we're really happy with that so far.
Okay, and before we get on to, I want to hear what's on the roadmap and what you guys are building, things like that. But what would you say to Web 2? This is more of my curiosity. What would you say to Web 2.0 programmers to convince them, hey, you need to learn, some 3.0 stuff? What would you say to them? And then how do you see that educational piece benefiting Nodeify investors? Like, how does that help the revenue? And can you talk to that?
Yeah, I think I think touching on like the last bit first there, I think a lot of the concept and discussion around revenue is not always the most important thing in that specific scope of that discussion. And what I mean by that is, if you think of a traditional dividend that gets paid out from an equity or whatever it is, like that from that specific concept, like many companies don't pay dividends. Right? There's only a few select, like if you think of like PayPal or Starbucks or whatever, there's a couple of ones that actually do frequent dividends. But a company like Amazon or whatever, there's no dividends coming out of a company like that. It's simply the value of the company is denoted by the stock price, and the stock price goes up and down based on news and revenue and like revenue outputs and projections and so on. But what I'm getting at here is like, as we build and establish more partnerships and, insert ourselves and create these technical products in co-collaboration with these other businesses, that inherently increases the value of our business, right? Regardless of, it doesn't necessarily always tie back into a token price because that's driven on a narrative and hype, as we all know, right? But a lot of the actual value of our business will increase through that. And that sort of will stimulate the idea of people learning more and coming through and utilizing our services and so on, right? So that there's a big tie in there through natural growth and natural value increase outside of just pure speculative market token growth. But yes, so back to the first question. The first point. How does that what was the part again? Sorry, James, I missed it. It slipped me.
No, it was what would you say to Web 2.0 programmers to convince them, hey, you need to get this new skill set?
Yeah, right. Okay, like we need to do a better job of detaching tokens and money from Web3. Like this, we do ourselves a bit of a disservice sometimes as developers by creating this ecosystem. Like everyone just loves to create tokens, right? Every project is just a token, right? But we need less of these token and less of the money driven development, and we need more innovative driven development that actually solves real world problems, right? Because Web2 developers are coming from that world, and of course as well, very critical, right? There's they don't want to be told what to do, and they're very critical, right? If someone's going to say like, oh, I made this much money in this many days, the first thing they're going to say is, well, that's rubbish and I don't want anything to do with it, right? Because that's just not how money works. So they're default skeptics, majority, which is good. They're very critical thinkers, which is sort of the way to go. But if we want to captivate that market share, we need to do better as an industry around creating examples and actually showing tangible business value. Like a lot of the actual examples that we go through and that are online, right? If you look at Ethereum or you look at Near's documentation is fantastic. They have a lot of documentation on Aurora that's also really catered to on-ramping developers. Solana does a good job with this too. But they're always like, oh, okay, start off with this tic-tac-toe game. Okay, now you understand Rust. Now, here's this token, here's this NFT. And it's like, okay, right, well, we need to do something else outside of that. We need to do ways that we can, examples like, Steppen, for example, what they're doing recently around trying to do these sort of things, right? Unfortunately, the tokenomics side of the way Steppen works is ridiculous, but that's not the point. The idea is like they're doing things that are innovative that break away from the traditional like, oh, token go up, price go up, token go down, token price go down, right? So I think we'll see a lot in the IoT space, right? Internet of Things, right? That's going to be massive. Small devices, automotive industry, of course, is going to probably catch on at some point. We're already seeing a lot around encryption and transit of secure data, right? People using different blockchain mechanisms and encryption protocols to transport data between entities and businesses and so on. And I think that'll only get more and more popular as we go. And those are the sort of examples that Web2 developers need to see and need to resonate with, because they're tech people. They want to focus on tech. They want to build tech. They don't want to talk about money. So
I think you're totally right. Is we need to detach. The DeFi space right now is just so weird with like chicken games and crab games and rewards that come from nowhere and all these weird things. And attaching it to like real business use cases is what's going to bring in new money into the space. And so I think you're totally right about that. We have a lot of people I think got on after your initial question. You can go back and watch the replay, but could you again just clarify how this is different than just like an RPC endpoint that Strong is giving?
Sure.
I think you just quickly specify the difference.
I'll even include Strong as an example. As someone who was very invested in Strong, as a lot of people were, I think it's important to know in detail how this works, because as someone who's built a platform and also as an investor, I sort of know every facet of how, not only how they work, but how this industry works in this sort of element. So Nodeify itself is not simply just offering RPC endpoints. You might have heard this word a lot, RPC endpoints. Like what does that even mean other than remote procedure call, right? It's like, that makes even no sense saying remote procedure call. Like every procedure is remote unless you're doing something on your desk. But regardless, the way that a product like Strong works is they allow investors to just simply create nodes, but all they're actually doing is they have maybe a couple of actual nodes behind the scenes, like actual servers behind the scenes that are running an Ethereum client or a Polygon client, depending on which node you created. And then they'll give you an API key, and that API key is, they'll create 556,000 or however many nodes they had, API keys that correlate back to one of those 2 or 3 servers, because you don't actually need a lot of servers because no one uses them. There is simply no need to use an RPC endpoint from Strong or any of these other products, because there are developer platforms like Infura, Alchemy, Moralis, BlockVision. I could go on, but there's many amazing platforms where RPC endpoints are free, and they should be free. There's no need to pay for these. And that's like a myth that's been sort of propagated through this realm, where it's like you're getting something, like you're exchanging these tokens for an RPC endpoint, right? And like that's a developer construct. An RPC endpoint is for developers. They access it to deploy smart contracts and to interact with the chain. There is no need for an investor to ever have access to an RPC endpoint. So that's like how that realm sort of worked. And that's sort of this myth that unfortunately Strong propagated and sort of pushed out to investors as being this thing, but it's completely BS. The way that Nodeify works is that you create capacity. So you're not actually creating a node, right? You're creating capacity that goes into clusters, right? Groups of servers that we manage and create, like we create them and manage them and distribute them globally, right? Actual set servers that run behind the scenes. And those servers and that actual compute capacity, we package up and offer to customers, right? And in this case, like these are our business-to-business customers initially, like Alpha Shares and like the game we're working on, which we'll have more information on soon. We package them up and we make managed services out of them. So then the question is, what is a managed service, right? So you can think of a managed service as like, as I spoke about before, it's an abstraction on a set of instructions or set of something needing to be done, right? So if a customer says to us, oh, we need to collect all of the data on chain every time wallet X mints, N amount of tokens, right? That's a specific thing. Or another good example is, you guys might have seen in any Discord you join, there's a bot that says like this NFT was sold, or data gets pushed into saying, James bought this specific token, you guys should go and buy it as well, right? Something like that. There are all of these events that sort of get pushed around, right? This is basically on-chain data being propagated into a Web2 space via a webhook, via an API, via whatever it happens to be, right? So all of this moving of data is a managed service, right? Someone has to create that. Someone has to pay for it. Someone has to run it and scale it and so on. So an example of a managed service is something that, in our case is the Nodeify event distributor that actually runs on top of this infrastructure that investors have created, so that it's only able to exist because of the capacity that investors have created. and it's able to facilitate the business requirements of our partners, right? So in the case of Alpha Shares, it's able to facilitate their at the back end of that marketplace. In example of the game that we're working with, it's able to facilitate on-chain to mobile device data. And we've also in discussion with many other partners around how it can facilitate them, right? But that's just one managed service, right? There's many different services that we are working on and building that are just abstraction layers. So taking away that complexity, making a really hard problem simple, and solving it through technology, right? That's basically what we're doing. And we're doing that with compute capacity created by investors. We're not taking RPC nodes and just offering them to people for no reason, right? RPC nodes don't generate revenue. They don't cost anything to make. There is no value in simply just offering that as a service. What we are at, like just one final thing on nodes, or on RPC nodes. So, if you think about a company like Infura, Moralis, Alchemy, and BlockVision, these are really well-respected companies within the development space, right? These are not DeFi products. These offer true RPC nodes, right? These offer actual developer tooling and services to consume. So, like I said, they offer free endpoints, but they also offer paid endpoints as well that have caps removed on them. So if you think about the free version of these endpoints, they'll have throughputs, right? A strong node, for example, when you actually accessed it and tried to develop anything against it, it had a 300 request per minute limit on it. So you could actually never even build a product on it and utilize the strong node as its backend, because it had a 300 request per minute cap on it. And that's in their documentation as well. And so, these services like Infura and so on, like I mentioned, they have a free plan, which is around about 150,000 requests per day. And then you can pay a little bit extra to have those caps removed. You can pay a little bit extra to have advanced monitoring and metrics to understand the health of your application, where your users are coming from, all of the valuable insights that you might need as a business owner. You can pay a little bit more and get dedicated support. You can get consultancy style level engagement, where the team engage with you on a technical level and on a business level to really make sure your application scales and make sure you succeed as a business. So you can start to see, like, it's not RPC endpoints that were ever the value and the business proposition. It's the team and the technology that you build around it and that you offer as a whole package. That really is the valuable thing and is the business there, right? And that's what we're incorporating into our platform. We're acting as a team and as a business where we can not only service and offer these things to our business, our partners and our customers, right? These managed, packaged, scalable endpoints along with our managed services, but it's all of the other slew of products and features that come with that, right? And of course, that means access to the team in a more like interpersonal way, where we can build together and create a product and ensure that it's going to scale and work, right?
Yeah, could you talk a little, maybe for a layman who is not very technical?
Sure.
Could you you kind of touched on this and covered this a little bit, but just so my audience has complete clarity, could you maybe talk about what tools do developers need if they're going to be building on Web 3.0 that you provide? Maybe just like explain it like you're explaining it to an 8-year-old.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, if you're a developer who just wants to get into Web3 and you want to build something, then, right now, Nodeify is I would say go to Infura, go to Moralis, go to Alchemy. They have, great documentation. Like, they have a way to on-ramp into Web3. Like Nodeify right now in its current context is not the initial onboarding place for a developer to find things, right? And to really kickstart. Our Discord, on the other hand, is a great place, right? If you come to our Discord and say, hey, I'm a new Web3 developer, I'll jump on a call with you and walk you through exactly what you need to do to get up and running. Like, I will take time out of my day to make sure that happens, because I want to see those people succeed. And I want, more developers means more apps means more transactions means more fees. It's basically stimulates the whole of blockchain as we know it. So, yeah, I mean, we are very much business to business focused as of today, right? We're 6 weeks in. But as we evolve our product over the coming months and years, we are going to have a whole slew of products that are focused on B2B and on B2C, right? Business to customer, or B2D, I guess you could say, developer. So, I mean, yeah, like, you only really need to get started is, I would say, access to YouTube to learn things, access to the documentation. And you don't really need much else. You simply need access to a node endpoint, right? And you can access that through Infura, Moralis, Alchemy, and at a later date, you'll be able to access that through our developer portal, through our Nodeify portal, for free as well, right? Our endpoints are also going to be free for developers to consume.
Okay, very cool, very helpful. Okay, and then could you talk about kind of the direction that you guys are going? If everything goes according to plan and everything works perfectly, where do you see Nodeify in a year?
Dex, what do you reckon? What's your thoughts? 1 year.
1 year. 1 year from now, I think we will have a good handful of like abstracted services and a bunch more kind of projects that we're that we're powering. And so I think also the most important thing to say is that kind of we've set out to also kind of do the due diligence on these projects. Like we don't want to power like a Ponzi scheme. Like we just want to kind of get the good guys, get the guys that are innovating in the industry, help the kind of Web3 grow. That has always kind of been part of kind of our plans from the beginning. And so yeah, that's kind of where I want us to be in the coming year, to kind of get more of those partnerships going, get more of those projects on board, and kind of scale everything up and kind of have that generate the revenue that we can actually use to sustain our kind of investors who've been with us from the start, right? That's kind of where we grow on that end. As we get more revenue, people holding the nodes, which will actually then at some point might even be considered like a share, will start getting that revenue. And that's just, I think, the nice thing about what we're doing, like having the entire kind of initial quote unquote strong reward model fade away real quickly. That's kind of the goal, like for the coming months. Just have it all be based on revenue.
Exactly. And like I'll ask Sam in a second, but I think like a good thing to add to that is like as we establish more and more partnerships, we capture a percentage of their revenue into what we're building, right? Like we go and co-build these products together with them, and then like we become reliant on them and they become reliant on us, right? Like this partnership actually gets created, as opposed to you might see and hear a lot on Twitter about partnerships, quote unquote partnerships, where there is actually no technical collaboration and no actual development or building of a product. But in our case, we are actually at the bottom layer building the game of Jenga together. Like that thing is so yeah, I mean as we keep doing that and as we keep scaling that with different partners and different businesses, naturally our value as a business will increase, and our worth and our token, of course, will follow suit. But Sam, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, in a year, I think like from my perspective, like what I build with the team is what I would really like to have is just more to be able to, when we speak to businesses, give them all the tools that they need to be able to make the correct architecture decisions, whether it's through our guidance, whether it's making sure like they have the right data endpoints, that they're able to make the analysis. That to me would be great. And also like being able to take these findings and create more educational content just for the sake of the community, for the sake of Web3. So we continue to see like other projects that want to challenge the status quo and really push the boundaries of crypto and crypto investments and just what we're seeing right now in this space.
Yeah, sort of like a flywheel, right? Like if through each business we go through, and as we sort of take those learnings and incorporate those into the products and services that we create, the next customer is the only one who wins, right? They win because they get the learnings of all the previous ones, along with our knowledge and so on as well. And that just snowballs until the point where we get to the level where we almost could run a consultancy, where we're able to then go out and say like, look, we can basically build whatever it is you want to build. That's like also an idea, and it's sort of similar to the direction that we sort of are already on, because we're already acting as that for many different businesses and teams already and individuals. So, yeah.
Okay, very cool. All right, well, does anybody from the audience have questions? I actually have been forgetting to watch. People like your Star Wars quiz?
I saw you get a question. What's your sun and moon sign, James?
Well, I don't even know what that means. I'm from Lincoln, Nebraska, and to shelter. Is that like a astrology thing?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I mean, I'm a Cancer. I mean, I'm not a Cancer. Like I'm healthy, but my sign is Cancer, July birthday. So I guess
You got some echo through your mic, Dex.
I'll mute.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, very cool. Yeah, I don't know how we got off on that, but so I'm just looking through. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask the team? And then, is there anything else that you guys would like to talk about? Things that are coming up that you're really excited about, or things that you've learned as we've gone through the bear market and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it some time for some questions to roll in. I mean, for for us, like, I mean, we could, like we were saying before, we call it the build market, right? We've just been building. Like, I've been really trying to keep my head off Twitter, keep sort of away from whatever everyone else is building, and just focus on building, because that's really the only way we make it out of here, as far as the build market. But no, for us, we're going to be launching on our 6th blockchain network in the next 2 weeks, right? So we're going to be creating that capacity. We need to distribute that node infrastructure around Europe, Singapore, and the US East Coast, which is where we have our data centers in the cloud. So we need to deploy that capacity there. And then we open up that next blockchain node capacity, whatever it is. We're going to announce that next week, and enable investors to actually create that. And when we create that new chain infrastructure, that enables our services to then access that chain as well. So if a partner comes to us and says, "Oh, we need to listen to events on Solana, or we need to listen to events on Ethereum, and when this event triggers, go and make this transaction on this other chain," right? Like cross-chain arbitrage, for example. We're going to be able to be in a position to support that like 100% out of the gate, right? So yeah, that's sort of the next couple of weeks for us. New blockchain network. We're going to be looking at what geographical regions we need to scale into next. That sort of gives us a good spread around the globe to make sure we have low latency endpoints or low latency capacity near our customers. Other than that, just keep doing like these educational sessions. Like we have that session on Friday about miner extractable value that I'm really looking forward to. It's going to be awesome on our Discord. And then of course we have tech dive stuff that we're doing on layer 2s, right? Layer 2 roll ups and layer 2s. We're going to be doing sessions on that over the different weeks as well, in different Discords, and of course on ours as well. And yeah, just continuing teaching and building with the community.
Okay. All right. We do have a bunch of questions. I just was not reading them, but there's a whole bunch up there. So let's see. Is Nodeify like PaaS, which I think is platform as a service?
Yeah.
But in Web 3.0?
Yeah, you can think of it like a platform as a service, right? In the same way that AWS or Azure or Google Cloud are a platform as a service, right? They basically are a platform that as a user, you can log in and consume what we call managed services, right? A service that does a specific thing for you, abstracts away a complexity for you, right? Just like, Gmail is a managed service, or just like Dropbox, right? Like the whole complexity around storing something and just having it magically appear in someone else's email. That's an abstraction on complexity, a managed service. So yes, in the same sense, Nodeify is a platform as a service in Web3, and we build managed services to abstract complexity for businesses and teams and developers.
Okay. Yeah. And then what is the decay model you talked about?
Yeah. So we do have, in our docs, we explain it 100%. So it's just docs.nodeify.xyz. We also have 2 blog posts dedicated to explaining it in extreme lengths. Like, again, we see what other products do, and I'm not going to just rag on Strong here, but I'm just going to say, like, anyone who is not transparent about their decay model and their rewards model, it's like the amount of work that goes into creating a business, and all the maths that goes into it. Dex knows all the maths that went into defining the decay model and the reward model. We 100% know the decay model inside out, and we've described it and all the mathematical equations on our blog and in our docs, right? So in our docs, we link to the blog and vice versa. But you can check out, there's a blog post called Time Traveling that explains all of the decay model, all of the rewards, and how it works in detail. And then, of course, in our docs, we have a rewards section that explains it at a high level. So
okay, yeah, and you are welcome to rag on Strong.
No, I really don't want to rag on anyone, but I just want to say, like, like if the team or if the product you're in is not being transparent and open and giving you a stage to actually ask critical questions, just leave the Discord. Like, we're beyond that.
Well, let's change topics. I don't want to talk about that. How is it different from developing a smart contract?
Yeah.
Listening to an event on blockchain on Infura?
Yeah, great question. So if you were to develop a smart contract on your laptop right now, and you were listen to an event from an Infura, you need to hold a WebSocket connection open from your laptop, listening to Infura 24/7. It's not really feasible, is it? You can't really run a production-worthy application that is listening to events from your laptop. You need dedicated compute that is constantly listening on your behalf, and then is able to send that event to whatever endpoint you need it to be, right? So our managed services, the event distributor, it's actually listening to whatever event you say, whether that's a transfer event, a mint event, a burn event, whatever it is. That's all customizable. And then you can use what we call connectors, and you can send that event to anywhere. I could say, if someone mints aboard a yacht club, send James an SMS on his phone, right? Like, these connectors allow our event distributor to be customizable and pluggable to any different storage layer or event bus, right? So in a sense, you can store something in a database, send a message, tie it into another system, execute another transaction, whatever you want to do as a response to an event. You can't, create a fully fledged production application, by having your laptop listen out for smart contract events. In development and everything, that's fine and all good, but at some point you have to outsource that event listening process to a provider that has uptime, assurances, SLAs. You can't miss events, right? So therefore, you need someone to do that on your behalf.
Okay, and then will you continue to destroy people on Twitter, Quicks?
No, no. I don't want to destroy anyone on Twitter. I just want to make sure people are technically understanding what they're investing in, and I do see that a lot of people have no idea technically what they're investing in, and I want to try and educate and help those people. So by all means, if anyone does have any questions around, like, how does this work? Is this what people say it is? Has anyone actually built on this thing? Come into our Discord and ask, and I'll be happy to sort of, answer the questions. The team will be happy to answer questions. So yeah, I don't want to call anyone out on Twitter or anything either. I just want to try and act as a beacon of education.
Perfect. Yeah, and you guys just got a glimpse of the beauties of traveling. You got kids walking in.
Got the kids walking around. Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, and then just a comment here, but they answer everything on Discord. If you have more questions, the team is super transparent, love to inform. So I'll post a link to the Discord. And if you guys do have, more in-depth questions that you really want to get into, they'd be more than happy to answer all of those. So I think kind of the last thing that I'd like to talk about is, again, if people see this, they like you as a team, they like what you're building, they think, oh, hey, yeah, there's definitely a future for this. Can you talk again about the best way to get involved? And can you talk about that?
Yeah, for sure. And the first thing we don't want you to do is just go and buy the token and create a node. Come and jump on the Discord and ask questions and get informed before you actually invest, right? You really need, we really need to create this as a normal thing, right? Where everyone, you just understand what it is you're investing in. So if you're interested in what we're building, come on the Discord, talk about it, have a chat with the community. We're always there to answer questions and the mods as well. And then if you like, and it sounds good, and you've obviously heard us talk about it for the last hour, then our token is on SpookySwap, and you can create this capacity through our dApp, right? And that's in our docs. And of course, I would recommend reading the docs and the blog before you invest, like always. But really just be on Discord and come on Discord and check in with us and see what's going on. That's the first step for sure. And the rest is all easy and follows naturally.
Yep, very cool. And I think that's a really important point is I don't know that anyone in crypto has ever really understood what they're investing in before they invest. That people just they chase APYs and they chase influencers and things like that. Yeah. And so I like that you're kind of pointing. I mean, in traditional investing, that's one of the cardinal sins, right, is investing in something that you don't fully understand. But then in crypto, we just do it all the time, like myself included. I'm just, this has a nice APY. Let's go do that. I don't know where it comes from. So I appreciate you guys and the educational side of things. Mm-hmm. And really appreciate that. So, all right. Well, I think we'll go ahead and hop off here. Again, if you have other questions, feel free to jump in the Discord, and they'll be more than happy to answer any of those. As we're going through the bear market, people are asking me what my thoughts are on Nodeify. And so I'll just, as we're going through the bear market, it does really make you kind of hone in on, hey, who's actually building something that's useful and that's necessary and that has revenue. And so Nodeify is one of those that I see as, hey, they're doing something that's needed. And so I think it'll be something that lasts beyond the bear market. Now, people are asking, is the APY going to be sustainable? Maybe I'll let you address that. Do you think, people are used to seeing tokens fall apart and the APYs fall apart? What do you think about that?
Dex, what do you reckon?
So the current APY is like we taper down to like manageable levels, and then at some point these nodes, like if we get enough nodes of a certain type, we'll cap them for sure, and then the actual like lasting returns will come from the revenue. So like you cannot infinitely create these nodes, so they will be kind of rare at some point. They will represent a share of this company and a share of the revenue, as it also is a share of the kind of resource pool it generates for us on the service end. So we have this runway with the current nodes, which is obviously going to be finite in that sense, but the revenue will take over, which makes it sustainable for as long as the company exists. So that's kind of where we need to be, and that's where everyone realistically needs to be for the future of anything in DeFi, right? Like you cannot keep sustaining things that like there's no infinite money. It doesn't grow on trees, and no one is going to be giving you magic APRs forever. So, and we've seen that with other protocols, like they have to cut the APY, or they go poof whenever the market just takes a turn because there's no sustainability in there. So that's something we don't want to do. We'd rather be a successful company generating enough revenue to kind of also funnel that back to the shareholders, which would be the investors coming in.
Yeah, and just on that, I'd say like one thing is like, oh, Dex, you have to mute. That's horrible. One thing on that is like, I mean, like this is something that I carry with me, and I think it's just good advice, not financial advice, but investing in teams as opposed to investing in just as you see a product as it is at that snapshot of point in time. If there is something that's like really high APYs and so on, if you really trust the team and you believe in what they're building, right? And I've seen many amazing teams like the Ethereum core team and like many other teams who build great products. If they come across something where it's like, oh, hey, they have to change it to make it more sustainable, they have to pivot, they have to do something. If you really believe in that team and trust in them, they're going to make the right decision, right? So, a lot of these teams, a lot of these other projects, if they have these insanely high APYs and you go and meet the team and talk to them and they sort of fluff around and don't really give you any good answers, then they're probably not going to give you, it's probably not going to end up being a good decision. But, in a roundabout way, if you believe in the team and focus on the team, then you'll sort of, whatever problem comes up with returns and APYs and sustainability will get handled in an appropriate way.
All right. Very cool. All right. Well, I think we'll go ahead and hop off here. And there are a few more questions, but guys, if you do have more questions, do hop into the Discord and ask in there. They'd be more than happy to answer those. But I appreciate you guys coming on and just I love having teams back. Just to kind of see how things have gone since that initial talk and how many of your plans have worked out. And you're right, 6 weeks is not that long, but in DeFi it is. Yeah. I mean, you think back to 6 weeks ago, and we were in a completely different spot in DeFi. So
exactly, yeah. Well, thanks for having us on, James, and enjoy the rest of your road trip. Have fun, and we'll chat again soon.
Awesome, sounds good. Thank you, and
thanks,
thank
James.
you again to the audience.
Thank you,
audience.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Yep. Everybody have a good rest of your day.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.